some misconceptions regarding irrigation.
Yes, a few facts, Rob. One thing I want to set straight was the debacle down in Ashburton with poor old Angus Mackay was tied up in, where we're selling bottled water, and the council were pushing the establishment of a new company and potentially 11 jobs, and the media just completely took that out of context, and they started turning everything into litres. And of course, we know when we're talking irrigation water, we're talking about cubic metres, which is 1,000 litres to a cubic metre. And if you see what goes out the rivers, is measured as cumex as such. But that particular exercise is the exact same equivalent as one of our wells at home on our farm in terms of annual allocation, and also litres per second mirrors that as well. So really we're talking about peanuts in the big scheme of things, and a huge hoo-ha about it. And here we are, 11 jobs. We should have 1,000 bottling plants selling our precious water. It is a renewable resource, and really we need the jobs.
But it's pretty emotive down there. They marched in the streets.
Well, they do, but they don't understand, because the media have sort of virtually turned it like measuring a kilometre in millimetres when they start talking about litres, and really people get all excited about it, but they don't understand the reality of it, and sensationalism will rule the day, when really they need to do a bit of thinking and a bit of research behind it.
Because now we've also got ECAN being caned for the theft of millions of litres.
Yes, well, the farmers themselves have a real problem with the irrigation infrastructure, and the companies can't keep up with the demand or with the servicing of various things, and the data loggers which they're going on about are terribly expensive and terribly inaccurate, or they fail. We've had one failed 5 times, and we sent it to Auckland, and the company gave us our money back in the finish, and so we purchased a really expensive German data logger after that, and it's now reliable. But these are the sorts of things that the media would say that the farmers are criminals. Well, if the batteries keep going flat, or the inside lining of the data logger falls apart or peels off or something like that, because they're not up to scratch. Now your big cities, they have industrial type water loggers, because they charge for the water. So we could be made to go to the industrial level. And really, I know in the States, that happened in one of the states there was 5,000 users were telling the state that we can't tell you how much we're using because our equipment's faulty. And the state said, you will tell us. And the guy said, well, we have to go to industrial type data loggers to get that far.
Is it not up to the user to make sure that they've got the right equipment?
Well, you try to, and there's only so much stuff on the market to do that job, and certainly those industrial ones haven't been put forward. But a lot of people in Canterbury don't realise what's underneath us here, and there's 600 metres of water-bearing gravel underneath us, right down to the bottom. And the guys that were guilty of not storing water. That's our big guilt, letting it flow out to sea, wasting it. The guys are putting in their storage lakes and things, they need to get awarded some medals basically for what they're doing, because we are just so wasteful of a precious resource, and we're not using it properly. Putting it through plants and creating jobs and income for the country is what it's all about, and really look at the big picture. Don't just focus on who's getting what and who's not doing what, like the media are at the moment, because it's not really the big picture at all.
Changing the subject totally, legumes catching on in the UK.
Yes, well, generally in Europe, Rob, less than 2% of all the arable land in Europe contains legumes, and as we know in New Zealand, in our pastoral economy, it's clovers and grasses mixed together, and basically our dairy industry and sheep industry, beef industry, run on clover. So and it's a very, very handy little tool, fixing nitrogen to the soil from the atmosphere for nothing, and environmentally very
well, totally sound, isn't it?
Very sound, very savvy, and purifying the air. But In Europe, of course, they have these small number of crops they can grow. The wheat, barley and canola is about all they've got. And artificial fertiliser is expensive, potentials for leaching, things like that. So they are discovering the values of legumes, like we know that in New Zealand, absolutely we do. And so they'll be moving in with things like faba beans, possibly clovers, but they don't get the seed set from clovers. That's the problem.
Oh, why not? Is it just the climate?
Just the climate. And so they really have to keep introducing clover back into their pastures. And of course they don't have many pastures, don't have a lot of stock.
No, because you sort of think of Europe as, I guess, with small holdings anyway, rather than broad acre like we have.
Yes, or parks, but certainly no fences, and very much that cropping scenario. But they do need to build their soil up, and legumes are brilliant for soil structure as well as fixing nitrogen.
And I guess you've got lucerne as well for over there.
Yes, lucerne as well. It's another bonus legume. Yep.
The green bridge.
The green bridge, at this time of the year, farmers are attempting to eat off their winter feeds and grasses and volunteer cereals and things like that amongst the brassicas. And if they go in and look closely at some of those volunteer grasses and cereals, they do harbour and contain insects, slugs, pests like scald and potentially bacteria that can harbour in there and carry through to where they want to establish a new crop in that paddock in the coming year. So get onto that. I'm not suggesting you go and kill the slugs with chemical or spray the diseases out with agricultural chemicals, but certainly eat it off and chop it up and bury it, get rid of it. Don't let it hang around right into the spring.
No, and aphids are still bad?
Aphids have slowed down a little bit with the frosts and things, but they're always unpredictable, those fellas, whether they've got yellow dwarf virus or whether they haven't.
Horrible little beasts.
And how long or how many it takes to affect your crop, but just go out there and monitor it.
Exactly, Dennis.
Yep.
Thank you very much indeed.